everyone, welcome once again to the bizarre and insane comic vault. I am Captain Logan.
And I am Steve Baxey.
Today, Steve and I are going to be talking about Batman Endgame, the epic six-part Snyder kind of epic conclusion to the whole Batman-Joker mythos, allegedly. This is kind of the big culmination of everything that he has been doing with Batman and the Joker. And this has been done for a while now. We are finally getting around to it. Steve and I have both read this a couple times through. Was this your third time?
Yes, it's my third time now, yeah.
I've read it, I guess I've read it twice through and then once when it was coming out, in issues. And
I did the exact same thing.
Steve and I have been back and forth on this, and I'm glad we waited. I'm glad we gave it some time, because if we did this when we first talked about it a couple weeks ago, this would have been an entirely different review.
Oh yeah, totally.
I was so on the fence about it and not sure what I thought, and felt weird even turning on the camera and talking about it, because when I got through a full one sitting read through the first time, because I got to the end and I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I didn't know what my opinion was. I felt like there were lots of really kind of neat ideas and things through it, but I felt like it was maybe analyzing itself too much, and boy, I had an entirely different experience with it the second time around.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk about it, because I feel like it could have stood to be one more issue.
That's fair.
Especially near the end.
Is there not a part of you, and of course as always, I mean, this goes without saying, but I'm just going to start talking about things right away, so obviously, complete spoiler review, this is for folks that have read this already, or folks that, just want to hear about it. Okay, real quick, just to be organized, perhaps for folks that haven't read this but want to hear about it, we'll talk briefly with a little bit of synopsis and talk about it. Joker has finally decided that it's not that what Batman and his story is no longer a comedy, and now it's a tragedy, because Batman wouldn't play along last time in Death of the Family with the whole court jester and his being the King Bat dynamic, and so he's decided now that it's still a play, and they're still on a stage, because that's the Joker's whole idea, or whole thing is that he's got to play out this reality. But now it's a tragedy, and he takes his gross face and he turns it upside down, and he makes it the face of tragedy instead of comedy. It's absolutely eerie. And the big question through the whole thing is whether or not the Joker has actually been immortal the whole time, and if he goes all the way back to the very beginning of Gotham. So I said that when I first read this, I felt like it was maybe analyzing itself too much, and it made it kind of difficult for me to have my own read on it, and it felt like at the end it was kind of just saying, here's what this means. And I think at the end of the day that's maybe more warranted than I thought it was, because Batman is having to look at this on the Joker's terms, and that's what the Joker does.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We talked about Batman a lot with Dan, and Dan famously doesn't like Batman because he's a character that never changes, and Snyder makes Batman a character that every arc he finds out more about himself, and it's usually the things that he doesn't want to face up to. The big thing here is that Batman says he for a while decided to psych himself into thinking that he doesn't believe in death.
Right.
And that's his big flaw by the end of this. That's the whole speech you get at the end, which I'll grant it's a little bit wordy. Alfred just has like a whole page where he explains the message to you, which I didn't really need. I think you kind of just gotten it if you just showed me the letter that said "ha." I didn't need more.
I don't know, though, is the thing. And sorry, keep going. We'll talk about the nitty-gritty here in a minute. But
oh yeah, sure. But Snyder's a writer that wants to push Batman in that direction, and I think it's interesting right off the bat that there's so many Joker stories where the Joker evolves because Batman says you got predictable. Snyder's the only guy I know that has written a story where the Joker says, Batman, you got boring.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. I've never seen the Joker say that this game isn't fun anymore because of you. It doesn't happen often, and when it happened here, he gave Joker a character arc that's typically what Batman's is, which is you finally consolidate all the different parts of yourself and become a person. And the Joker becomes a person by the end of this in a way that Batman doesn't. Batman almost goes a little bit more mad than you usually expect him to by the end of this.
You think?
A little bit. I don't know. It's that last dialogue exchange. I guess that's why I say I wish this could be one more issue. Because everything at the end where Batman and Joker have their fight, which is probably the most brutal Batman-Joker fight I've seen in a while, I wish that was just an issue by itself to kind of elaborate on some of that.
This notion of the Joker maybe having been an immortal all the time, and even just the idea of Joker wanting to physically be immortal is not a thing that I ever really thought about until Arkham Asylum and Arkham City.
Yeah, you're right.
And I read this and I saw so much of that, and then I've been playing through Arkham Knight, and I'm not at the end of Arkham Knight yet, so I can't really speak to the what that whole story is. But like, there's a whole lot of that in this too. This idea, and I guess the idea of the Batman and Joker completing each other is, of course, not new and kind of the point of a lot of these stories. And I don't know, Steve, if you could point to a specific story where that's kind of where that kind of begins, and we keep exploring that all the time.
I mean, it's tough to say. The Joker's early appearances, like his first 3 or 4 comics, he always dies at the end. But I guess that might even speak to the point of Joker keeps coming back. Joker keeps getting kind of repetitive, and we eventually build a mythos around Batman and Joker as two sides of the same coin. But I guess we kind of build in the whole immortal thing right there from the very beginning of he's supposed to be dead, and he's not. And it gets kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and here's what's really interesting. There's this weird meta thing going on in Batman and Joker stories, right? Where Joker keeps becoming more like Batman in this really super twisted way because of the contrivances we have to come up with to make them able to do the things that they do. So Batman, we get to a point where we can very easily just say, well, Batman can do this thing because he's Batman, because he seems capable of anything, simply because, and you can always go to he trained a lot, and he's like super driven, and so he's, because of what happened to his parents, he put himself in this in this emotional place that very few people, if anyone, would ever be in. So he's become this extreme person, and he's almost created a superhuman out of himself. But so you can use that as an excuse for things, but ultimately it's just, we've got a human character that keeps facing these really impossible things, and so he's great at everything, he's Batman to the end. We've done that with the Joker, too. The Joker can break out of prison, because he's the Joker. The Joker comes back from things that he should have been able to die from, because he's the Joker. And so the idea that these two people who seem to be completely opposites in every way are actually more alike than Batman would ever want to admit, and that the Joker being this dark reflection of him, partly comes just from the fact that we have to keep contriving ways for them to do incredibly impossible things. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
I never thought about that before.
Yeah, you're right, and I think that's why I guess I appreciate Death of the Family a little bit more, because I really don't like that story. But Joker seemingly dies at the end of it, and that really feeds into this book in particular. Yeah. And Batman doesn't even question the fact that Joker's back. Okay, sure, he's Joker. It doesn't seem to go any deeper for him than that, and I think that's interesting. One of the things I really enjoy about Grant Morrison's run, one of the best things about Grant Morrison's run, is Joker. He makes him almost a meta character, where the Joker he says so many lines, and it seems so out of place and weird. But by the end of the story, you realize that, okay, I think Joker can almost break the fourth wall, and he sees the themes of the story that they're supposed to be, and he forces Batman along that path. And the history kind of leads up to that, where, like you mentioned, there's so many story contrivances to keep those two together. And after a point, Joker just starts to be able to see those lines, whether they make that explicit or not. And here, I don't think Scott Snyder had like a definitive, this is my Batman, until he wrote Zero Year. Yeah. And Batman has that line where he says, I'm not the guy that gets everything, I'm the guy that keeps trying until I figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you open this story.
That makes him a lot more human, which is really important for this.
Yeah, and you open this very importantly with Batman has to fight the Justice League. Batman is a man who has to fight a god to prepare himself to fight the god of death, which is the Joker in this. Yeah. And when you get to that Joker stuff, where Batman's like literally afraid for one of the first times, and you're reversing that, you're giving Batman more of like a Joker character arc, where where Joker is now the symbol of fear. Joker is now the thing that the city's rallying behind. The bat signal is upside down. It's Joker's city, and there's so much talk about the city and the realism, and Joker's so much of a fantastical character that he's become theatricality in a way that Batman isn't right now, and that's terrifying him. And that feeds in really well with everything about Batman saying that he doesn't believe in death, but the Joker being it for him. That Batman is now the cowardly and superstitious.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. That's really interesting. The way I think the big reason I liked this so much more reading it this time is because I felt like I got the ending in a way I didn't before. And the reason earlier I questioned you're saying maybe we didn't need so much of that Alfred monologue is that, well, I didn't get what the point of Ha was the first time around, and this time I did, so I don't know, maybe I did need more of that than I would like to admit, you know?
Yeah.
But the way I read the ending, tell me what you think of this, is that the joke is Batman creates the Joker, and both literally and metaphorically, because like not just because he drops him in a vat of acid, but because the Joker sees himself as something that Batman needs. And so Batman, in order to do what he does, has to perceive himself as more than human, as larger than life, as almost a god. And that's why he says that he that he has to act like there's no such thing as death. He has to lull himself in a place where death is just something. And and the thing is, you know, we've been talking about that as if it's like a new idea, but of course it's not. I mean, like every Batman, nearly every modern Batman story you read, he won't go to sleep. He refuses sandwiches. He thinks that everything.
Very specifically sandwiches.
Specifically, I don't know why that is. There's all these things that he resists about mortality because it means that he is not above the criminals as much as he thinks he needs to be. He has to morph the city into what he wants it to be, and therefore he has to become a god. The Joker has to become a god in order to serve the Bat God. And that's what the whole King Bat thing is about. And I feel like you're right that the Death of the Family story is a better story after you read this, because all of that kind of comes more into focus now. And you go, okay, so the reason Joker has now decided that he's not Batman's friend anymore is because Batman has changed the rules. Batman's decided he's not a god, and Joker made himself a god. Maybe he physically made himself a god. And I like that the story remains ambiguous about it. We never know the answer to that. You get to the end and you still don't really know, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, Batman gives him an ultimatum saying that if you do this thing, we know it's fake. If you do this thing, we know it's not fake. And Joker does the other thing. He goes for the pool, and it makes you think, well, then clearly he must not be immortal. But then there's never an explanation for all the photographs and where all that came from. And they say that they're too good to be fake.
Yeah,
so it's hard to say.
And Batman asks the first of the Talons. Or I guess one of the first of the Talons was the Joker there 400 years ago, and then we cut to a scene, and you never get the answer to that.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know, and I love that, because the Joker's always been such an ambiguous character. We're not supposed to know where he comes from, at least in the modern versions. I'm not going to complain that Alan Moore gave him a backstory and Killing Joke and stuff like that, but like the current iteration of it. When we started playing around with the idea of Joker as immortal, I'm like, okay, is Snyder gonna, and are we gonna see this as maybe self-indulgent? Is Snyder gonna come right out and do his Joker, like his definitive backstory for the Joker, and make him this immortal, larger-than-life character, and then we have to retcon it so that anybody else that wants to write this character is able to, really? Or do we somehow keep going with that? We've managed to make that sort of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's been there since 0 Year. He has this great ending to the first story where you get Red Hood 1, and you're almost like 100% sure that's the Joker. And then they build in an epilogue that says, oh, maybe it's not. And then you do the exact same thing here. And I think what it is that Scott Snyder knows exactly what he wants to write, and he's gotten permission to do it to a point, but DC still requires it to be a little bit ambiguous. I think if they had a full-on reboot post-Convergence, this would not be ambiguous at all.
Do you think?
If they had a full-on reboot and they knew exactly where they were going, it was a different universe, he would have gotten to just do straight-up immortal Joker, I think.
I think that the story ultimately, even though the idea of Joker being immortal is fascinating, although I can see both sides of this, I'm going to say this and then I might backtrack, but what I thought of was this story kind of works better, at least thematically, if the Joker is just creating this perception of immortality, because that's what Batman does. And because the Joker deciding, I have to be a god in order to serve Batman as a god, doesn't really make any sense if he already is one. But then maybe it becomes a god trying to turn a man into a god, and that's. But I don't know what that means exactly. But that's what it would be, I guess.
I think, and I doubt he would do this now, because he said this is like his big cap off the Joker.
Yeah.
I feel like now he needs a Joker origin story, not like Red Hood, but I feel like he needs a Batman versus Joker for the first time kind of story where we see, is Joker ahead of the curve on Batman, or is Batman ahead of him?
Yeah,
because that would inform a lot of where this is potentially going. Because one of the things I resist about this run all the time is that it's pretty much just straight up Morrison, and Morrison almost literally made Batman a bat god, and so I'm not opposed to the notion of Snyder just making Joker a straight up death god or something like that. I think that's consistent enough with what he's doing, and he's turning it on its head enough by making it the other character that I can buy it. But I guess some of the problems having, because you have that great opening symbol, and you bookend it with the Apollo thing in the theater. Where the guy says that we're spending all this money on it because people want to believe it's real, and we can only make it look real to a point, and we're trying our hardest to do it. And then by the end of it's still there, but it's in the trash. And so it's saying two things of, it's still there and it's resilient, but it doesn't mean the thing it used to, or the power behind it has changed.
Okay, I think it's saying something else as well, though, because my read on that was in conjunction with Batman's note at the end, is ultimately it's important that anyone could be a god. There's no such thing. And that gods are about being symbols of hope, because that opening bit with the theater was right after Zero Year, and I like how it ties into Zero Year. This idea that the Deus Ex Machina in that play is really important, because we want people to feel like they can be saved, and at the end we trash it because some normal lowly person has to come up and be the person that does the saving. And Batman's card at the end is a reversal on the Joker, and the big joke is, I created this perception that that the Batman is immortal, but the symbol of hope is pointless if not anyone could do it. And ultimately it becomes sort of, and this is part of why I say that I'm seeing so many different Batman things in here, is that then there's even a little bit of Nolan in it, with this notion of anyone can, I mean, obviously you need a lot of money, but the idea that Batman is just a man, but creates this perception, and the hope isn't, the distinction is, the symbol of hope is not someone can save us. The symbol of hope is, well, if this person could go this far to help people, maybe humanity is okay.
Yeah, because I think Snyder's making very clear the point that Batman as a symbol doesn't function if it's just a mythology. That it has to.
And that's the point that the Joker doesn't understand.
Yes, exactly, and I think that's why I like that final exchange so much between them. The Joker's kind of begging for it, because Joker's kind of finally definitively lost, I think.
Yes.
I think we've gotten to this point where Batman finally grew past the Joker, and I haven't seen that more than a couple times in like all 75 years of Batman. I haven't seen that more than a couple times, and I think it really works here. And death is always about relevance. Batman has that moment where he says the last time he conceived about his own death is when he fell in the Batcave when he was 13 years old.
Right.
And ever since then, he's been trying to build himself to not believe in the idea of death whatsoever. But the biggest flaw in the Batman idea is no one's going to want to be able to do it if they can't physically do it.
Yeah.
Like you said. So Batman has to learn that Batman has to die. Bruce has to learn that Batman is mortal first, and that's why he matters. That he is everlasting, but he's everlasting in practice before he's everlasting as a physical entity.
Yeah.
And the Joker has to trick his way to get there, and he doesn't get it from a natural place. He gets it from a really misguided, confused source. And I think part of the reason that this works so much as a good definitive version of the Joker is Joker's never a consistent character. He's different for every writer. Joker doesn't have a kind of stability. And the moment you try to make something unstable into a symbol, it doesn't really mean anything, and it has to collapse on itself. And Batman, even throughout his 75 years, he's got traits that carry over. Joker doesn't have that, aside from the clown get-up and being called Joker.
I think it's also and that was wonderfully eloquently put. I think it's very important that the Joker, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but because there's all that questioning in Death of the Family of whether or not the Joker knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne already.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that up until recently, at least in these arcs, that Joker doesn't know that Batman is Bruce Wayne, because after all, if he knew what exactly his backstory is, he doesn't have that immortal flair. He doesn't, because Joker wants to see he and Batman as the dual protagonist, or the protagonist and the antagonist that the whole world revolves around. And of course they have created a world where that is true, and that's where the insanity comes in, and where Batman has to find the relevance, as you said, is in realizing that he is still a man and that he is not above everyone. And the Joker doesn't understand that and doesn't want that to be the case. And I think that Joker discovering that Batman is Bruce Wayne coinciding with this pretty recently anyway. I think I'm right about that, unless he did the whole time. They made that kind of ambiguous too.
Yeah, they did.
That's a little confusing.
Which I'm okay with.
But if that's the case, or maybe he ignored it before, and if he ignored it, because that could be that could be true. What if he just didn't care where Batman came from and decided that he and Batman were the players on the stage that the rest of the world revolved around. And once Batman starts putting his friends first and ignores that larger drama that Joker and Batman are trying to play out together, that's when Joker can't handle it anymore. That's why he tries to get rid of the family and break that up. And that's why when Batman didn't accept that in this, he says, "Fine, I'm going to turn them all against you." And he's okay, you changed the rules, so now it's a tragedy, and the world destroys you. And again, that's the joke, is that it was always a tragedy. And I really like that idea at the end that it's always a tragedy. Batman has to die, and the Joker doesn't like that. He until he gets to this story, he wants to see them as both of them together as these immortal figures, like I said, that the whole world revolves around. And so I think it's really cool that in this story he starts using Batman's origin as proof of how Batman is just a man, because okay, fine, you're not gonna play my game, then I'm gonna show you how you're not as important as you thought you were, and then that's kind of cool, because then that the Joker is helping Batman to figure out who he is, because the Joker is telling Batman, "You're just this guy," and Batman, "Oh yeah, you're right." And that's why I'm better than you.
Yeah, I love that at the end that Batman internalizes all of that. That he moves past the Joker by finally accepting, I get it, I understand, I am you, and I'm sorry that I ignored you for so long. We get so many Batman stories where they are the two sides of the same coin, and he refuses to accept it, and the point is that he constantly has to. And I've seen a lot of people compare this to Killing Joke, and I completely get why now, because that book's on my mind now that we have the movie announcement and everything. But I completely get that now, because at that book, it opens with and ends with Batman saying, I finally give up a little bit, and I have to concede that you fit into my life somewhere. And I'm trying to find out where that is. And you can interpret the ending in different ways to say, does he go with that or not? And the way I prefer to do it with the Morrison way of, yeah, he does kill the Joker at the end of that story.
Right.
And he does the same thing here. He takes everything the Joker told him and he makes it better. He is the definitive Batman in that way of being able to address all that history and put a new spin on it and make it his own character. But he's also definitively Snyder's, because Snyder's character is all about a guy learning from all of his mistakes and getting better. He finally overcame the one big hurdle on his journey that Batman usually never overcomes, which is getting past the Joker.
Well, what's interesting is he beats the Joker by agreeing with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the joke because when he says, I'm fixated on this, the joke that he's talking about is the joke the Joker's talking about, too.
Yeah. And it's something that I think he's painfully aware from the very beginning, like the Joker being in cell 0801.
Yeah.
Where it just says, the fact that he didn't catch on that the Arkham Guard was the Joker the whole time. Mm-hmm. And you get that great symbol of the fly on Batman's eye. That the Joker's finally bigger than him, and Batman is losing a step. He's lost his edge in being able to predict the Joker. And he loses that because he misses the clues that are all right in front of him. He misses the obvious notion of you're ignoring half of yourself. And I even like that it took Alfred losing his hand to get there. Before the first time I read that, I thought that was really gimmicky, and it's just a really obvious symbol. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. The Joker very specifically says, "You're Batman's right hand, and I'm taking it off." But in a lot of ways, Batman does that to himself too, right? Where he isn't able to be 100% effective in how he tackles criminals and being a symbol because he doesn't understand the problem of his symbol, which is what this book is about. So when you finally cut off Alfred's right hand and you replace it with the Joker, that Alfred's still there, the family is still there, the symbol's still there, but you finally add the mixture of death, which the Joker finally symbolizes in this book, that's the only way to make it complete. That a little chunk of Batman has to go away in order to make the bigger piece better.
And also just the simplicity of the more Batman ignores that he needs help because he is mortal, the more the madness sets in and the closer to the Joker he is. Because the only friend the Joker wants is Batman, and he wants them to be in the madhouse together. And like you were talking about, like, I love the way the theme of friendship works in this book, because at the beginning of this you have the Justice League all attacking Batman, which was a thing I've seen before, and somehow it felt, in the context of this, more haunting than it ever has. And what I really like, even though Batman had a contingency for everything, and like I said, I just see so many books all over the place. The Tower of Babel is there. I mean, there's all this stuff, and yet, like, it's really sad and haunting because the Justice League symbolized the Joker as a larger-than-life force that is larger than Batman, like you were talking about. And ultimately, he finds his, and I think that this is a really fitting cap-off to Death of the Family, that he accepts that he is not effective without acknowledging that he needs help. Because Batman is a walking contradiction when he says, I will ignore death and I can do anything, and I have all these sidekicks. And I love that Snyder just right out attacks that. I also love just the image of the Joker's trying to turn all of Batman's friends against him. By the way, this idea of all of Gotham's citizens being Batman's friends and they all turn against him because they have this stuff in them that makes them, this version of Joker toxin, that makes them turn against Batman because they all love him. I thought that was going a little too far.
Yeah, it gets a little cartoony. The whole Joker parade thing at the end also, I don't know, I thought that was going a little bit too far.
But what I like about it is that Batman has to go to his enemies.
Yeah, I like that symbolic, but it still raises the question of why aren't they Jokerized? Were they just conveniently out of the city and all had gas masks before they met Batman?
That's a really good question. I don't know. There's a few things like that Snyder's glossing over pretty hard, right? Like there's that one throwaway line about how he's about how he's told the Arkham inmates that if they brutalize or kill anyone, that there's this knockout gas. And there isn't really a knockout gas, but he's just told them that, and so they're not going to hurt anyone, just so that we don't have to worry about the fact that they might brutalize people and that Batman sanctioned it. That was a little easy. Because, like really, they're going to be, oh no, a knockout gas! Really?
And I even question the decision of them deciding to help Batman. Like, what does Penguin get out of that, really? He's an opportunist. It doesn't matter that he's in Gotham. It just matters who's paying him. It just happens that the most money comes from Gotham. Same with Killer Croc. Like, why does Killer Croc even care about Gotham specifically?
I would argue that the reason that you're saying that is that it needs another issue, like you said, and that there should have been a little bit more discussion about what their motivation is, because we know that if Batman doesn't make an antidote, that everyone in Gotham dies, and if all of Gotham's citizens are dead, then it's harder for these people to make money, and they got to go live someplace else. I mean, like.
So what about Mr. Freeze, who really wants all of Gotham dead anyway? He wants them all frozen, so...
Okay, look, Steve, I don't know, okay? So maybe the choice of some of the characters was a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean...
Poison Ivy? Was Poison Ivy there?
Huh?
Was Poison Ivy there?
Yes.
Okay, I don't buy that even a little bit, right? Oh, you're gonna kill off all the humans? I'll just take over with my plans!
Yeah, I guess you could make the case that, well, the Joker toxin is bad for the environment, but you never said that, and I kind of need to know that, especially if we're assuming that it's all a natural substance that's been there for years.
Yeah, I mean, even Bane, I'm not really sure what he gets out of it.
Bane wants to break the bat. Does it matter that the Joker preps him for it? Because that's what he did in Nightfall.
No, you're absolutely right. They're all way too easily swayed to go on Batman's side. And what it reads like is like there's just a scene we didn't see, because they just all show up.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the idea of, and it goes back to Dark Knight Rises a little bit of, someone, even people this horrible are capable of doing something for the right reason.
Yeah, I guess, but...
It's fine, but you still need a bigger explanation, because this whole story
and it's all of them at once,
and
it's all of them at once. And keep in mind that the whole upside-down bat idea was, the upside-down bat signal idea was Joker's, and that the other inmates went along with that. Now, I will say this. Maybe if I went back and read, because it's been a while, if I went back and read Death of the Family right before this, I might appreciate their going against Joker simply because he's the Joker, because a lot of them were used in that by the Joker, and they didn't like the way they were used, as pawns, because I think importantly, I think Snyder probably meant this as a payoff for both the Bat family and the Arkham family, because the Bat family, he's trying to turn Batman against, and he's using them, but he sees the Arkham family. I'm just saying that, but the Arkham inmates, he's using them as pawns in the exact same game. They're all playing pieces that he sees as just part of the game board. He even calls people pieces in this and thinks that he's killed them all. That was also, by the way, also kind of an easy, convenient explanation real fast in one panel for, no, they're not dead, we fixed that.
Yeah, and I guess sequentially that would matter, because Zero Year is an earlier story, and then filler aside, it goes Death of the Family, Endgame. It's right back to each other. It's a Joker story for like 12 issues at that point.
Well, it's back to back, except that you have, as far as chronologically, there are a lot of events in between.
Although, importantly, not Snyder-influential events, and none of the stuff in those middle events really affect either one of the stories.
You're right. The only reason I say that's important is just because, obviously, Batman doesn't go from Death of the Family to a week later this happens.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely important, but I think at the same time, because all of his other arcs are like 12 issues, and this is the only one that isn't, along with Death of the Family, but they're both 6 issues.
That's true.
And I feel like that's a little bit too convenient to not maybe read it as a big 12-issue epic.
Especially because it's kind of the culmination of everything. One of the things I really liked about this, too, was how the history of the city fits in, because Snyder's been building Gotham history stuff since the very beginning. Definitely so. We get that great moment where we get to the Court of Owls, and they've got a Gotham City that's upside down, because they have to remind themselves that Gotham is above them. And the book never lets you forget that even if you're the worst kind of human being, the city will outlast you. That it's always bigger than you. And I have a hard time wondering if it's the city itself, or does counting the city itself mean the people within it, and that's why the symbols matter. What I want to know is how exactly we should read Batman dropping it.
Yeah,
because Batman drops that, they say we're above it, or we need to remember that we're below it, and that the city is bigger than we are. And Batman drops it, and this is a story about Batman figuring out his own humanity, and that he is not above people, but his symbol is. And the idea ultimately is that all people could do the right thing and help that cause. So perhaps the notion is, weirdly, the more the Court of Owls say, like, we're beneath the city and we serve it, and of course they don't, they have this bizarre sense of justice that's not really justice. Maybe Batman's saying that as they say they're beneath the city, they actually are really acting above it. And Batman dropping the city is a his symbolic way of saying, like, maybe that's the moment where he actually shows us that he's changed the way he's thinking about things.
Yeah,
maybe.
You're right.
Sorry, I'm spitballing because I haven't given this a lot of thought yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I just got another one too. Actually, and I haven't developed this at all, so I don't know how this will sound.
Yeah.
But, maybe it's a little bit of the opposite of maybe the book starts with the city's bigger than you, and ends by saying that's not possible because the city is made up of people no matter what.
Yeah.
So the city can't be bigger than you because the city is nothing but you, and the city is nothing but what you make it, and that's the whole point he makes in the opening of Zero Year, where Batman says that the city can't resound on mythology, but people need to ignore that and realize that the city is made up of moments, and the city is made up of people, and helping those people is why I'm rejuvenating Gotham, and why I've come back to the forefront, is inspiring those people and not the buildings.
Yeah, and so, you think, because intuitively the first thing you think of with the idea of the city or the world is bigger than me is humility, right? Yeah. That kind of Jurassic World idea of we built this park to show how small we are, but this gives this kind of spin on that idea of, if we take that idea too far, then we say that the city is so much bigger than we are that the world is the way it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so
and that's
weirdly,
what the Court of Owls is about. Is that the Court of Owls is very much about a status quo. It's justice is the interest of the stronger. This is who we are. We were there from the beginning. This is how it should always be. And Batman's combating to say, no, that's not it.
And they do that because they believe in order, and we have to create that order by, like you said, having the strongest run everything. But Batman says, no, it can be everyone working together.
Yeah, and I see, now that makes me want to go back and see if this reads better chronologically, because you open Zero Year to the very beginning of all of this. You open Zero Year, and you get a sense of the city is out of control because everyone thinks that they have no sway in it. And then that develops into a very particular group thinking that because we're well off and everyone else is just doing things, that we deserve to be on top. Then the Joker shows up, and then the Joker has his whole 12-issue epic. And I think it even reads as all 40-some issues of this would be a progression of the city is larger than life because people let it be that way.
Yeah.
And we are constantly breaking it down.
We're perpetuating that.
Because the ultimate symbols of Gotham, of Batman and the Joker, the biggest thing the city has to offer are two people that can die. And that's the biggest point, is that everyone dies. And even the city at some point is capable of dying, which is where it was at the opening of Zero Year, that it wasn't alive yet. It was gone for a while because no one believed in the spirit of the city.
Yeah, and that the insane thing would be to think that you could keep going forever like Batman pretends like he can, and that is sustainable. And that's what the Joker is doing, and so so it's Batman making a choice to be A, realistic, and B, to be the closest thing he can to an actual God, which is to create a symbol of hope that would live on beyond him. And the Joker's not doing anything to perpetuate himself beyond his own mortality.
Yeah, he's not even perpetuating consequences of his actions. He doesn't kill anyone in this story specifically. He has an axe in Gordon's chest, but he doesn't kill him with it. He doesn't kill Alfred either. He's very much about maintaining the status quo, and he's built himself up on this house of cards, which is perfect for that character. These are all these coincidental meanings. These are all the little meanings I took out of it, but none of them are consistent with each other. And why don't you want to meet me up here with the same house of cards? And Batman says, because naturally it's going to topple. And that's exactly what happens on him. And then the cave collapses on him, and he dies. In the same way Bruce first experienced death when he fell in the cave at the very beginning of his career.
Yeah, and I love all the connections the Joker is trying to make, where he's saying that we are in a weird way the same. Like the Joker having his own cave is great.
Oh yeah, I love that. And I love that the Joker is able to just enter the cave and leave the way he does. I think it's interesting that Joker is even beyond those sorts of territories now. Of like Joker has access to everywhere, and we shouldn't question it.
You get to the end, and it starts to read as I don't see, and the thing is, I don't know if the word sappy is the right way, but I resist things like the blood in the shape of the heart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yet, where you get to, and maybe I'm really overthinking this the way we've been talking about it, but you get to the end of this, and I have a hard time now, especially that we've talked about this. Wondering if, let me see if I can articulate this, if the idea isn't that these stories, this story especially, but I mean like Batman and Joker stories, have just gotten to the point where they're all about deconstructing this and the symbolism and everything. That this is a story about Batman finding his own mortality, and that the whole. This whole like ultra symbolic thing is just this like loop that he's been stuck in with the Joker forever and ever and ever. But then we're in a story that is crafted by a person that is using symbolism and metaphor and all that stuff. And so is it being at the end maybe a little bit ambiguous, where we still are in a world of melodrama and symbolism and metaphor that works that way, but about a character that moves beyond it? Am I giving it too much credit by thinking that Snyder might be doing something by laying it on that thick at the end, or is it just laid on too thick at the end? And I don't know if I articulated that even remotely, effectively, but.
I think I see where you're coming from. There's that moment where we get to a Foundry Square, and Batman makes the point of this is a place that's constantly been taken over and reasserted, and it finally sets into a groove, and that's why Gordon lives there. It's because he wants stability, that he wants a place that's founded on something solid. But Gordon is a little bit of a contradiction there, where he wants something founded on a very solid idea, and then he works with Batman and accepts all of these moral grays in his job of letting a vigilante roam free, because it's for a different type of greater good. I'm not sure if that's giving you too much credit of that somehow meta fitting into what you're talking about being a story that's both a melodrama and concrete, because people do that to a sense of they live in places with a history, and they become that history of becoming a rock solid person if you live in a place that has a rock solid culture, which is kind of what Gordon is. He's a character that doesn't change. He's not supposed to. And then you get the big ideas that wrapped around it, and maybe people just naturally come that way. And then something makes me think that maybe it's also just the Joker influence of the Joker is a character that sees things in big grand themes. No one else is, but because they interact with them, they naturally become that way. Yeah, and that's the ultimate point of Batman, is that you become what you see every day. And if you see more of the Joker than Batman, then you're going to end up like him. And if you see more Batman than the Joker, then you'll end up like him, and one of them is better than the other.
And the insanity of being a hero in Gotham is being a part of that world but constantly fighting against it. This idea that someday we can move beyond it, but do we really believe that? Are we not perpetuating it? Are we not being a part of that system while thinking we're fighting against it? The characters in this story that seem most level-headed are the characters that got out of Gotham and hardly ever go there.
Yeah, you're right. And see, now I wish, again, there was just another issue where we talk about all the side characters that finally come back in, all the sidekicks that have been doing other things, including Dick Grayson, who's a secret agent and supposedly dead somewhere else. And he factors into this plan, but does the rest of the Bat family even know he's alive? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't. Does he just look like Dick Grayson in this, or does he actually wear a Nightwing suit? I don't remember. I don't think he actually. He
looks just like Dick Grayson.
Oh,
but
okay.
I mean, they had to have known that part of the plan was that Dick Grayson would be dressed as Batman, didn't they?
Well,
and
actually,
if that's the case, then why aren't they questioning that he's alive?
To be fair, though, I read a couple issues of the Grayson comic, and I think he and Batman talked to each other in that.
I know he and Batman have talked, but I'm not sure if he, Tim, Barbara, or anyone else has talked to him. And I don't know. That could
maybe that's the moment where they find out he's still alive, but they don't show us that. You know, Snyder doesn't do anything with that. But I do like this notion, and I don't know if I'm right about it. But and I'm not trying to read things that aren't in the book. It's just that there are things that in other things I would say are too melodramatic or too artsy for the sake of being artsy, that in this I'm really on the fence about, and I can kind of see reading it a couple of different ways. And so again, especially at the end, when we're really laying it on thick, this idea that these Batman and the Joker have created this world where all these people have been wrapped up in this insane, larger than life melodrama that they're playing out, that they've created a world that almost breaks reality and turns it into a literary fiction. And that Batman at the end has learned how to move beyond that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm maybe this line was a joke, but Zero Year always has a line that I love quoting where Batman has a giant computer screen, and Alfred's like, isn't that a bit big? And Batman's just like, Batman doesn't do subtle, Alfred.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if that is actually the mantra of Scott Snyder's run of Batman does not do subtle. That this is the point all the way through.
And the question I always have is, does this kind of stuff happen in a story, in an ongoing fiction, Steve, where we've just beat a dead horse to the point where all we can do is write about the writing? And I'm not saying that to take anything away from this. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, there is some brilliant here, and at the very least, some really, really fascinating and some cool deconstruction. But do we not deconstruct all the time with Batman now? I mean, like isn't there a place where we're not just where you wonder if we can't just tell more stories in that world and not constantly talk about the city as an entity? And I get that it's always supposed to sort of be that, but I mean, like sometimes it kind of feels like, again, the work analyzes itself too much. I mean, like the Arkham games are doing that, and I love them, and all the ideas are fascinating, and me as a writer and as a critic and as and somebody that loves to analyze fiction, I eat that stuff up with a spoon. But I wonder if sometimes we don't do a little bit too much of it with Batman, just because we've. It's almost like we've gotten so obsessed with talking about the deeper aspects of it that we're kind of now just at the brass tacks and constantly saying the same thing.
And I think part of the problem is Batman fatigue. I think part of the issue is that we haven't had a single Batman run since the 80s where a writer doesn't have a definitive statement he wants to make on each character all the way through and deconstruct them.
Statement's the right word, yeah. Is the problem that we're just talking about stuff too much and not just having a character that goes on a journey? But then maybe Dan Torrey has a point that that's what starts to happen if you always have a story about a character that never changes. But then Snyder lets him here to a degree.
Yeah, Snyder lets him. It's interesting that he's able to do that, where he's able to make an extremely meta story, and then in the context of the universe, bring us to a natural place where a character makes a decision and decides to grow.
Yeah, and it makes it a very human thing.
Doesn't usually do.
No, he doesn't, and there's reasons for that. But that's one of the things I love about the character is that he's really and the constant question of, does that make him mad, or is that the thing that makes him sane, that he won't allow the world to change him because he knows that what he's doing can help make the world a better place. That's always the question. But maybe it's okay to have stories where we answer it, but then that's a big grand statement, and then so it's like I feel like I'm a snake eating my own tail right now.
And this even goes back to like late 2000s, where you had Paul Dini and Morrison writing at the same time. Morrison's a guy that says that Batman is a character that has to change and evolves and takes him to that place. Dini's a guy that says, no, you can't do that. And that's part of the reason Dini left writing Batman is they couldn't hammer out a version of Batman that both of those guys see eye to eye on. And we're getting so many opposing views and so many same views that it gets to this point where if you want to make a breakout Batman story, you have to write on a level, on a fictional level that's different than everything else, and you just keep pushing that. And Morrison's the first guy to really do it, and then Snyder has to take it up another level. And I guess we'll talk about it a little bit, because I still think Snyder's using way too much of Morrison's formula, and that really bothers me.
We'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit. Yeah, we should go ahead and finish up. We've been talking about this for a while, but...
Oh yeah, sure. But okay, Morrison's Batman and Snyder's Batman open with Batman realizing that there's a secret organization that's been controlling the city from the very beginning that knows his identity. Yeah. This secret organization eventually breaks his psychology, and then he goes on a journey with his worst enemy being the Joker, who also goes through a different growth and reevaluates their relationship with each other that culminates in the secret organization going down, and then Batman and the Joker having a face-off in which not only is the organization gone, the Joker moves on, but Batman is quote unquote dead and becomes a Bat God. Here, Joker becomes a Death God, and we're exactly from everything from Batman and Son to Black Glove to R.I.P.
Wow. I mean, I realized there was
a Batman incorporated idea of the Ouroboros. Snyder uses the Ouroboros all over Zero Year. The whole snake eating its tail. That he uses that symbol exactly.
Oh wow! So that symbol is in there.
Morrison talks about.
I just said that because it's like how I felt talking about this, and that's like a part of the. Good Lord! Okay.
Yeah, like. It wouldn't bother me so much if it was just the broad strokes of the plot, but no, it's the same symbols, it's the same people, it's the Miyagani people, it's exactly what Morrison made the Bat thing of. They're the guys that worship the Bat symbol from the very beginning and founded Gotham.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was note for note the broad skeleton of the plot. But you're right. But
he's turning it on its head, and it's good. But I'm sorry, Court of the Owls is not as interesting as the Black Glove. And what Snyder does with the Joker is great, but it's exactly what Morrison did with Batman. It's almost page for page what Morrison did with Batman. And the only difference is DC likes Snyder, so Snyder gets to have an ending, and Morrison has to write an issue where the character literally says, "I can't have what I want, so we're just going to end the run here." And that really bothers me.
So does that make you like this less just because he's doing something so close to your favorite thing and your favorite thing didn't end right? Like, does that taint it for you, make it hard for you to read it?
It makes it hard for me to read Court of Owls. I like this a lot. It doesn't touch this so much as it touches the initial run. I still don't like Death of the Family. I still don't like Court of the Owls. And a lot of that just because those are the stories that derailed that run. This isn't, but those are.
I mean, the god symbol, the notion of both of them sort of becoming gods at the end is the same, but this notion of Batman deciding that what makes him better than the Joker is that he's a human being, I think is Snyder's alone.
No, Morrison did that as well.
Did he really?
That's the whole point of Batman Incorporated.
Okay.
That's the whole point of the one shot where Batgirl invades like a school where Lady Gaga's a teacher.
Oh my god. Oh, wow. Okay. And both of them do a lot of like really haunting, traumatic stuff to Batman. I mean, both are all about taking Batman to his lowest place and actually make him scared. And, Morrison takes him through the whole, like, actually hallucinating and losing his mind thing, as Snyder doesn't quite go there. But
yeah, although I think Getting Lost in the Maze is pretty similar to Batman becoming a hobo for a while in Batman R.I.P.
Yeah, but that lasted a few issues. This was like one.
That's true, yeah.
So yeah, it's similar, but it's not the same thing. I'm just saying that I don't think he takes him to as close to the madness.
Yeah, that's true. Morrison is just a guy that naturally does that sort of writing where you can't read anything by that guy that's completely straightforward, and that's part of the fun of it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and at least Snyder is straightforward.
And people have this joke, and I really agree with it, that Snyder really is Diet Grant Morrison. And he's good. I really like his take on Batman. It's completely fresh. I think Snyder's like almost postmodern punk Batman is a genius idea. At the same time, though, you're doing that by using the same formula another writer used to get his character to his definitive place.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, it's hard not to see that as a strike against it.
Yeah, and I mean, they come out so close to each other. The big Batman writer was Grant Morrison, the next guy was Scott Snyder immediately. They're right back to each other.
You know what my biggest problem with the whole thing is?
What's that?
I don't know how the Joker gets the dinosaur out of the Batcave. I can't deal with it. I read that. I read that scene and I just wanted to put the book down. I couldn't handle it, Steve. I was like, Alfred's like he just stole relics, or I guess his daughter is like he didn't take the car, he didn't take anything, he just stole relics. The very next page, he's got a dinosaur on a float. And it made me. I'm being facetious when I say that I couldn't handle it. I just think it's hilarious. But Snyder's way too ambiguous about how much time has passed. Because it really feels like that all happens in a period of like 5 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a hard time not reading the story as anything except like a couple days at most.
Yeah, well, it seems like it happens in a single evening, and yet Joker's got this whole elaborate parade set up.
Yeah,
and
it would make a good Arkham game.
Yeah, it would. And like I said, I was thinking Arkham all over the place. You mentioned Killing Joke. I wanted to mention that there's this brilliant transition where when Joker goes to Gordon, where he was homaging Killing Joke really hard. Did you notice it?
I think so. Yeah.
He goes into Gordon's. I just want to mention it in case anybody missed it, because this read I caught it. I didn't catch it before. When he goes in. Joker. This is just before Joker actually gets into Gordon's apartment, and he knocks on the door, and he says "knock knock" just like he does in Killing Joke. You turn the page, and I forget what the scene is, but it's a totally unrelated scene, and in the very top of the page, somebody else says "Who's there?"
Oh, that's great.
That was cool.
That's awesome. Although I feel the need to mention Batman and Robin second arc by Morrison. Same thing. He references Killing Joke really hard with Jason Todd, where he has the exact same panel drawn, except with a different character.
I'm trying to praise the cool stuff, dude. And
I know. I really like this story. I think it's a really brilliant story. It's really hard to not think about that.
It's apparently better if you don't know as much about Batman as Steve, or because I just haven't read enough Morrison, and
we'll fix that eventually.
Yes, we will. Yeah, and we're going to start doing that pretty soon. By the way, for those of you that are wondering where Bat Chat is this week, because I meant to mention that at the beginning of this, we decided to do a couple of comic arcs before we go to Volume 2 of Batman the Animated Series. So this is effectively Bat Chat and the Comic Vault simultaneously. And we went a little longer, for quite a lot longer, because we had a lot to say about this, of course. So hopefully folks won't feel shafted that not only they didn't get Bad Chat, but they got like 3 times longer than Bad Chat. So anyway, Steve, anything else you want to make sure we say before we finish off on this?
Last really quick thing I want to mention is it's 6 issues. First 5 issues are all black covers. Last one is in white, and you get that great image of Batman slaying the dragon. And I mean, just so many classic a hero's journey metaphors that can be pulled from that. I think it's legitimately a brilliant image to use for this, and I hope they use that for the trade. That's got to be on the trade.
They should, especially because, well, it kind of sums up everything about the story, because Batman is not the sorcerer in a dragon story. He is the knight. He's the human being that he's the David to Joker's Goliath.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a mixed metaphor.
Different types
I shouldn't have used that.
Characters into that mixture. Like he's not Zeus. He's Hercules killing the Hydra.
Well, anyway, everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you read this, we would love to know what you thought of it, and if you would like to send anything for us to review on the Comic Vault, or you want to see me and Vince open something on camera for Mailbag Day, the P.O. Box is there on your screen. Thanks so much, Steve, for helping me noodle this one out. I appreciate it, man.
No, of course. Thanks for having me. This was exciting.
We will see you again next time. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Maxey.
And we'll see you next week. We're going to review some other comic thing. I don't know what exactly yet, but we'll do another comic next week.
Okay, cool. We will talk about that.
Yeah. See you, folks.